A Rabbinic Anthology selected by C.G. Montefiore and H.Loewe. At the end of Herbert Lowe's introduction, I have appended the part that includes the abbreviations. 1232 T.J. Pa 1 Section 1 Folio 15C Line 7. See also our selection 395 are use these programs in order. Our Joshua was asked, "May one teach one's son the Greek language?" He replied, "Teach it him when it is neither day nor night, for it says, Thou shalt meditate therein, i.e. in the law, day and night." Joshua 1:8. Then one ought never to teach one's son a handicraft. That is not so, for our Ishmael said, "Choose life," Deuteronomy 30:19, and life means a handicraft. It was also said that the prohibition of Greek was on account of the informers, whose familiarity with Greek tempted them to treason and to deliver their fellow Jews into the hands of the Romans. R. Abahu said, "One may teach one's daughter Greek because it is an adornment to her." Note 63 T.J. Pa 1 Section 1 Folio 15C Line 7. See selection 395. Now, historical Judaism first made appearance in the second book of Maccabees, which was a Greek text, and some of the scriptures that were not included in Tanakh and were considered apocryphal to the Christians were in Greek, but some of them were just as authoritative as some of the ones in Aramaic or Biblical Hebrew, as people would call it. 1233 ABRN verse 1, 1123a. R. Simeon B. Elazar said, "Even Adam did not taste food until he had done work, as it is said, the Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to till it and keep it." Genesis 2:15. After which he said, "Of every tree of the garden thou mayst eat." Genesis 2:16. R. Thorfinn said, "Even the Holy One, blessed be he, did not cease his Shekinah to alight upon Israel until they had done work, as it is said, Let them make for me a sanctuary, and then I will dwell among them." Exodus 25:8. ABRN verse 1, 1123a. 1234 T. Kid 1, 11 Z, page 336, line 7. A man is obliged to teach his son a trade, and whoever does not teach his son a trade teaches him to become a robber. The person who has a trade in his hand is like a vineyard which is fenced in, so that cattle and beasts cannot get into it, or passers-by eat of it, or look into it. And whoever has no trade in his hand is like a vineyard with its fence broken down, so that cattle and beasts can enter it, and passers-by can eat of it and look into it. T. Qid 1:11 Z, page 336, line 7. Here I have translated the Hebrew word umanut, see note 20k, indifferently, by trade or handicraft. 1235 ABRN verse 2, 1123a. R. Elazar B. Azaria said, "Great is work, for every craftsman walks out with the implements of his calling, and is proud of them. Thus, the weaver walks out with a shuttle in his ear. The dyer walks out with wool in his ear. The scribe walks out with his pen behind his ear. All are proud of their craft. Well, you don't have to be proud, but God speaks of his work. Genesis 2:2. How much more should man? ABRN, verse 2, 1123a, 1236, ABRN, verse 2, or is it version 2, 21, 22b. Shemaiah said, love labor or work, Abath 110. A man must always love work and busy himself with it, for even of God, to whom belong the world and its fullness, it is written that he rested from all his work which he had done, Genesis 2:2. How much more, then, must human beings work? R. Eliezer said, great is work, for even Adam did not taste anything till he had worked. For it is said, God puts him in the garden to work at and to keep it, Genesis 2:15. Great indeed is work, for just as Israel were commanded to keep the Sabbath, so they were commanded to work, as it says, 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, Exodus 29. R. Judah said, if a man does no work, people speak about him and say, how does so-and-so manage to eat and drink? It is like a woman who has no husband, but who decks herself and goes into the street, and people speak about her. R. Meir said, he who does not work in the week will end by working on the Sabbath. How is this? If a man is idle for 2 or 3 days, he will have nothing to eat, and he will steal. They will catch him, hand him over to the government, and cast him into prison, where he will have to work on the Sabbath. ABRN, verse 2, 21, 22b. $1,237 T to on 212 Z, page 218, line 15. R. Joseph said, a private individual must not fast excessively, Sagef, lest he become a burden on the public, and the public should be forced to support him. T to on 212 Z, page 218, line 15. Well, I personally can do whatever work I can do fasting that I can do non-fasting. So, if I want to walk 16 miles and have good terrain to do such, fasting doesn't interfere with that. It doesn't, 1238 TJ Dem 7, section 4, folio 26b, line 26, see 1486. A hired laborer must not starve himself or undergo privations, because he diminishes his value as a workman to his employer. TJ Dem 7, section 4, folio 26b, line 26, 1486. The rabbis had no love of poverty. Indeed, they thought that grinding poverty, see note 92, was one of the sorest of human afflictions. They regarded riches as a blessing from God, yet they remembered the temptations of riches and gave warnings about riches illegitimately acquired, through usury and all that. And they often said that Israel was more faithful to God when poor than when rich. And if we're honest about it, your typical Jew is actually poor. So don't let a minority fool you into thinking that, 1239, Sephra Numbers, Parach, 119, folio 39b, H, page 144. Gold and silver take a man out of this world and the world to come, but the Torah brings a man to the life of the world to come. Sephra Numbers, Parach, section 119, folio 39b, H, page 144, 1240, Chog 9b, Elijah said, God looked about among all good qualities to give to Israel, and he found nothing better than poverty. So, people say, poverty suits Israel as a red bridle suits a white horse. Chog 9b. Now, if you look at the non-Jews of the Holy Land, they have the most of that ancestry. But the Iranians, for example, which are the least Semitic in the area, they are 16 times as Semitic as Israeli Jews. So we need to consider what is meant by Israel and all that. Chog 9b. A red bridle, a white horse. Well, a white horse is more expensive, right? And a red bridle is definitely more expensive. But it's a good color combination too. 1241, ton, dBl, page 181. God examined all the good qualities in the world, but found no quality so good for Israel as poverty. For through poverty, they fear the Lord. Probably a mistranslation of God as a verb and noun. For if they have no bread to eat, no raiment to wear, no oil for anointing, then they seek the Lord of mercy, and they find him. Ton dBl, page 181. 1242, Ned 81a. Be heedful of the children of the poor, for from them Torah proceeds. RT, page 270, Ned 81a. The children of the poor, Son 96a, has children of the Am Haaretz. This saying is introduced by the words they sent from there, Palestine, words left out, which, according to Sen 17b, denotes a dictum of R. Elazar B. Padat, and that's HL's note. Remember, this book was written in the 30s, so they weren't pretending like Palestine didn't exist. 1243, Exodus R, Mishpathan 31, 12 and 14. There is nothing harder than poverty. It is hardest of all the afflictions of the world, words left out. Our sages say, all other sufferings in one pan, and poverty in the other, and the scales would balance. There is no lot which is harder than poverty, for he who is crushed by poverty is as if he were crushed by all the afflictions of the world, and as if all the curses enumerated in Deuteronomy had befallen him. And our sages say, all afflictions in one pan, and poverty in the other, and the scale of poverty would fall. Exodus R, Mishpathan 31, 12 and 14. 1244, Leviticus R, Behar 34, 4. The poor and the man of means meet together. The Lord lightens the eyes of both. Proverbs 29, 13. The poor is he who is poor in, i.e. ignorant of, Torah. The man of means is he who has learnt a few divisions of the Mishnah. The verse comes to the second and says, teach me a chapter. And he does so. Of him it is said, the Lord lightens the eyes of both. They acquire both this world and the world to come. Rich and poor meet together. The Lord is the maker of them all. Proverbs 22, 2. Rich and poor are interpreted as before. The poor man comes to the rich man and says, teach me a chapter. And he does not teach him, but says to him, why should I want to sit and teach you either the last or the first section of the Mishnah? Read and learn with those like yourself, but God has made both. He who has made the one wise can also make him stupid, and he who has made the other stupid can also make him wise. Are the poor is he who is, literally, poor in possessions, and the man of means is he who is in work. If the first comes to the second and says, "Give me alms," and he gives it him, then of them it is said, "The Lord lightens both their eyes." That is, the poor man has won the life of today, and the other has won the life of the world to come. Or the poor is he who is poor in goods, and the rich is he who is rich in goods. If the first says to the second, "Give me alms," and he refuses, then of them it is said, "The Lord is the maker of both. He who has made the one poor can also make him rich, and he who has made the other rich can also make him poor." But if the rich man says to the poor man, "Why do you not work and then eat? Look at your legs, look at your thighs, look at your belly," then God says to the rich man, "Not enough that you give him nothing, but you grudge him even that which has been given him by me." Note 91, Leviticus R. Behar 34:4. 1245, Numbers R. Mathot 22:7, Tanch B. Mathot 780a finish. 3 gifts were created in the world. If a man has obtained any one of them, he has acquired the desire of all the world. If he has obtained wisdom, he has obtained everything. If he has obtained strength, he has obtained everything. If he has obtained riches, he has obtained everything. But when these things are the gifts of God and come to him through the power of the Torah, but the strength and the riches of the flesh and blood are worth nothing at all, and if they come not from God, they will be taken from him at the end. Proof texts are Ecclesiastes 9:11 and Jeremiah 11 verses 22 and 23. See also selection 15:11. Numbers R. Mathot 22:7. Tanch B. Mathot 780a finish. And remember that we have the God is the divine lawgiver, so if a person works out and it just doesn't come to them poof, it's still a gift of God that they had the opportunity. But that, of course, doesn't necessarily justify how they get it, right? Because we were talking about the wealth. 1246, Numbers R. Mathot 22:9. It is written, "The wise man's heart is at his right hand, but the fool's heart is at his left." Ecclesiastes 10:2. The wise are the righteous who apply their heart to the law, for the law is at the right hand, as it is said, "From his right hand came a fiery law for them." Deuteronomy 33:2. By right hand, Yemen is also the term, right? The fools are the wicked who apply their heart to get rich, as it says, "At the left hand are riches." Proverbs 3:16. Well, and to the left, you could say, well, that's, where the Muqaddas, the Holy Land is. Are the wise man is Moses, while the fools are the children of Reuben and Gad. Numbers 32, verses 1 to 32. Who made the chief thing, the secondary thing, and the secondary thing, the chief thing? For they loved their money more than their souls. For they said to Moses, we will build sheepfolds here for our cattle, and cities for our little ones. Numbers 32:16. Moses said to them, not so, but make the main thing the main thing. First build cities for your children, then sheepfolds for your cattle. And God said to them, you love your cattle more than the souls. Therein will be no blessing. See selection 702, Numbers R. Mathot 22:9, 1247, Exodus R. Mishpathan 31:3. Happy the man who is firm in his trial, for there is no man whom God does not try. He tests and tries the rich to see whether his hand will be open to the poor, and he tries the poor to see if he can accept sufferings without murmuring. If the rich abides the test and is charitable, he enjoys his wealth in this world, and the capital, i.e. the merit of it, remains in the world to come, and God delivers him from the judgment of hell. And if the poor abides his test and does not kick, he receives double in the world to come. Psalm 41:1, 18:27, Job 42:10, Exodus R, Mishpathim 31:3. Riches must not be acquired illegitimately. It is interesting to hear the rabbinic opinion of usury, i.e. interest. It is quite on ancient Greek and even medieval lines. 1248, Exodus R, Mishpathim 31:6. He who takes usury has no fear of God. Word left out. God says, he who lives on usury in this world shall not live in the world to come. Exodus R, Mishpathim 31:6. H.L.'s note on the taking of interest from non-Jews. See page C to CII of my essay, Usury, in volume 2 of my Starters and Charters in the British Museum. See also 1254, and that's H.L.'s note, 1249, Exodus R, Mishpathim 31:13. Everyone who takes usury from an Israelite has no fear of God, or is left out. The scripture regards him who takes interest as if he had committed all the evils and iniquities that are in the world. But he who lends without interest is regarded by God as if he had fulfilled all the commandments. Exodus R, Mishpathim 31:13. Usury has to be taken in its old sense, as equivalent to what we call interest. It does not mean here excessive interest, because any is, but any interest. Such and such year dollar, such and such year dollar. Perhaps you can think of it that way too. Because, for example, these things were based on actual silver and stuff like that. So you can ask for equal silver to be returned, right? Or gold or whatever. By a series of fantastic interpretations of scriptural verses, the Midrash establishes the proposition that the works of God in nature lend to one another without interest. Only man takes interest from his neighbor and oppresses him. 1250, Exodus R, Mishpathim 31:15. He who takes interest says to God, why dost thou not exact payment from thy world and its creatures, payment from the earth which thou waterest, from the plants which thou makest sprout, from the stars which thou causest to shine, from the soul which thou hast breathed into the body, from the body which thou guardest? God replies, I lend much, but I take no interest, and the earth lends and takes none. I take back only capital, which I have lent, and the earth takes back only its own. As it is said, then shall the dust return to the earth, and the spirit shall return to God who gave it. Ecclesiastes 12:7. Exodus R, Mishpathim 31:15, 1251, Sifra 109c. Whoever takes upon himself the yoke of usury, i.e. undertakes to observe the prohibition against usury, takes upon himself the yoke of heaven, and whoever breaks off the one yoke breaks off the other. For the verse prohibiting usury, Leviticus 25:37, is followed by, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, and this means I brought you out of Egypt on condition that you would accept the prohibition against usury. He who denies the obligation of the command against usury is as if he denied the going out of Egypt. Sifra 109c, because there's different types of usury, for example, if you're going to look at that too, not just the interest. So the condition, of course, was that they weren't going to oppress. They should really know that, not, oh, we're doing this because of the Holocaust, or, whatever the actual truth of the Holocaust is, or whatever. But, no, they should know. Or they should know because of their ancestors or whatever, better than other people. 1252, T Bab M 67Z, page 385. Come see how blind are the usurers. A man may call his neighbor idolatrous, unchaste, and a shedder of blood. He may persecute him even so far as to deprive him of his livelihood, i.e. his life in this world. But that fellow, the usurer, fetches the notary, the pen, the ink, the document, and the witnesses, and says, come and write down that this man has no more share with him who forbade usury. He writes out the deed and takes it to the courts, and thus repudiates him who spake, and the world existed. So you see that usurers deny the root, God. R. Simeon B. Elazar says, they incur more guilt than they gain profit, for they make out the Torah to be a forgery, and Moses to be a fool, saying, had Moses but known how much we earn, he would not have inscribed the prohibition of interest. Our Akiba said, a hard thing is usury, for it can turn even a greeting to usury. How? If a man has never greeted another all his life, but now, when the other becomes his creditor, he greets him first, then that greeting is usury. R. Simeon said, whoever owns money, but refrains from lending at interest, to him applies Psalm 15, while usurers sink deeper and deeper and perish. Proverbs 24:11, TBAB M67Z, page 385. 1253, TJ Bab M5, section 13, folio 10D, line 11. Our Akiba said, a hard thing is usury, for even a good deed can be usury. Thus, if a man gives money to another and bids him buy him vegetables in the street, this is usury. Our Simeon also said, usury is so wicked that if a man who has borrowed money from another greets him when he had not been accustomed to greet him before, that is usury. TJ Bab M 5, section 13, folio 10D, line 11, 1254, Exodus R, Mishpathim 31:5. When Solomon had built the temple, he prayed to God and said, Lord of the world, if a man pray for riches, and thou knowest that they would be bad for him, give them not to him. But if thou seest a man whom riches would become, then grant them. As it is said, render unto every man according to his ways, for thou alone knowest the hearts of the children of men. 2 Chronicles 6:30. For in this world the wicked are rich and are at ease, and the righteous are poor, but in the world to come, when God shall open the treasuries of paradise to the righteous, the wicked who have eaten of usury shall bite their flesh with their teeth. Exodus R, Mishpathim 31:5. H.L.'s note, later Jewish law made some distinctions between usury, neshek, and interest, marbit, ribbit. The law in Deuteronomy 23, verses 20 and 21, made no such distinctions. It uses only the word neshek, which is prohibited between Jew and Jew, but allowed to be used by a Jew to a foreigner. Does it say foreigner or does it say goy? Because then a secular Jew would be included. Leviticus 25, verses 36 and 37, both neshek, tarbit, and marbit are forbidden to be used by Jew to Jew for the whole subject. As for the distinction between Jew and foreigner in Deuteronomy, see my essay referred to in 1248. HL. In Psalm 15:1, the pious man is said not to put out his money to usury, neshek, and the Talmud says, 1255, Mac 24a, he who walks in perfection, referring to Psalm 15:1-5, is the man who does not lend on interest, ribbit, even to a Gentile. And remember, our words for Gentile are not just Jew, non-Jew, right? Unless you say Jew in terms of one who's taking in the guidance, the Yehudi, if that's the term being used, but Mech 24a.